Yo, hey, check this out.
You're gonna learn today.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Lakeside Chat. I'm your host, Brother John Muhammad, and as always, we talk with community figures, political leaders, and everyday people. We'd like to encourage you to go to the page, facebook.com/Lakeside Chat. And today we're blessed to have a candidate for City Council District 6, Brother Corey Givens Jr. joining us. Thank you and welcome to the Lakeside Chat.
It's been a long time coming. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Glad to be with y'all.
Glad to have you here. So first thing we'd like to do is have you introduce yourself and tell the people who is Corey Givens Jr.
Well, I'm going to look at the people and talk to them. Corey Givens Jr. is, I think, who everybody in St. Pete is. I think I kind of embody a little bit of everything. Mm-hmm. And that's what we need, I think, in any kind of political candidate. I don't want to look at us as politicians because we should never be politicians. We should be public servants.
Right.
And in order to be a servant, you have to be humble.
Right.
And, you know, I'm a part of this brotherhood, Phi Beta Sigma, and part of joining a fraternity or a sorority is, you know, going through a process.
Right.
And in that process, we're taught to humble ourselves. And I think that's what we need is someone who's humble. And from my meager backgrounds, I, was born and raised right around the corner from here, 14th Ave and 31st.
Right.
This is the crust of me. Charles Park, my grandmother, my mother, all of us, we come from St. Pete. I'm a fourth generation native. I graduated from Lakewood High School, attended USF St. Pete where I got my degree in communications. And, it was there while I was at USF that I took on journalism.
Okay.
And I started reporting what was going on in the local government beat. So I had city council, the school board, in the county commission.
Right.
And as I sort of started delving into what was happening on the local government level, I realized that much of what was happening, I could be affected by it. And I was being affected by it.
Right.
And even, every time you become a taxpayer, you become part of this governmental system.
Yeah.
And a lot of us have become jaded by it because we feel like we've been left out and disregarded along the way. Because you have folks who are more so looking to advance their political agendas and become power grabbers that they forget about the core. And that's who we are. That's the people that we serve.
Right.
And so Corey Givens is a public servant. Corey Givens is someone who's been immersed in work all of his life, somebody who was not born with a silver spoon in his mouth, because I came from these same beginnings that a lot of the folks who are supporting me understand, and as a result, they want me to kind of grab somebody else and help them along the way. So that's what I'm here to do.
Absolutely. And what inspired you to actually run for City Council District 6?
District 6, well, I ran for school board in 2012 against Renee Flowers, who I'm happy to now have her support in my candidacy.
Right.
But I ran against her and I lost in that seat. And I see it as, I'm a spiritual guy. Faith and family are the cornerstones of who I am. So for me, I prayed on it, and God said, although it wasn't your time in 2012, now is your time.
Right.
And so I went to my pastor and I prayed on it, and we got into heavy meditation on it, and so finally I consulted the family, and the family gave me that nudge and said, Corey, go along and do it. And that's when I decided this is what I want to do. So I started going to the folks who I'm going to need to get me there.
Right.
And after listening to my neighborhood association, because I'm a president of a neighborhood association too, Lakewood Terrace, shout out.
Right.
But after listening to my neighborhood association and folks from my church, Friendship, and just folks in general from the community and community leaders who felt like we needed an opportunity to take heed to this chance that we have to put a voice of common sense, a voice of relevance, a voice of humility on that city council. So that's when I decided, now that my friend Carl Nurse is term limited, this is an opportunity opportunity for us to, you know, put that seat back into the hands of a candidate who cares about the majority and not just the minority.
Right. And so what makes you think that you'll be able to win this election? I mean, what gives you the motivation to say, yeah, we can actually do this?
3 things. I got the energy, I got the enthusiasm, and I have the experience.
Right.
And I think those 3 things make the perfect candidate. Those 3 things make the perfect representative.
Right.
And ultimately, that's what I'm striving to be.
Right.
So, you know, with what I bring with my energy to run this race, because, you know, here we are, we're still over 4 months away from this election, and more people are expected to announce. There's already a field of us that have announced. So it's going to take getting through these debates. It's going to take knocking on the doors. It's going to take phone banking. It's going to take reaching as many voters as I possibly can, but reaching them and telling them my story.
Right.
Explaining to them why Corey is the best candidate, why Corey is the one who needs to be on the city council, why Corey is better than any other alternative. Right. So it's not a matter of me destructing or denouncing my opponents, but it's going to be a matter of me selling myself and pitching my platform to people so that they can buy into it.
Right. And then going around the city, particularly in District 6, a lot of conversation is about economic development. And the words that come up is true economic development. So what are your thoughts on what true economic development looks like, and how will you be able to implement that as a candidate or as a council member of District 6?
I'm going to take it a step further and say true and effective economic development, because a lot of times, you know, economic development, folks can put up this big shiny set and say, look what we've done, look what we've given y'all, look what we done set up for you. But after they set us up to succeed, it more so seems after years and time has passed, they've set us up to fail.
Right.
Because they've given us the tool but haven't taught us how to use it.
Okay.
And so my thing is you can give a man a fish, but if you teach a man the fish, he'll eat for a lifetime, rather than just one day.
Right.
So I think we need economic development, true and effective economic development that's going to sustain our community. And I say invest in livable wage paying jobs.
Right.
And that takes, I said, bringing companies here and retaining companies, because that's what we forget is about the mom and pop businesses, you know, within St. Petersburg that employ, I would say sometimes 5 to 10, you know, employees. That's the crust of our community too.
Right.
And then making sure that we give them the benefits that they need, you know, and then there's opportunities obviously within city government, you know. There's a proposal now to hire more staff members to help city council members with the minutiae of paperwork that they have to go through. Well,
legislative aid.
Exactly, legislative aid, you know, and I support the idea, but my thing is I support it as long as we enforce that local hire ordinance, to say, if it gets passed now, to say that these are jobs we're setting aside for individuals who are looking to get their foot in the door in public policy, public administration, and local government. Those graduates from USF, St. Pete, Eckerd College, St. Pete College.
So you're not getting somebody out of New York to come and be St.
Folks from our own community who are looking for those $30,000 to $40,000 plus benefit paying jobs, you know, and if we can start with 4 or 5 of them, that's great. But let's crawl before we walk. Let's assess the budget and let's see if the money's there, and then let's take some planning and action.
Right. Excellent. And so another one of the concerns that people have is, like, you know, when you look at crime statistics, the trend of stats are down, but the feeling of safety and public safety is still heavy. It's still heavy. And so what would be your way of addressing that or dealing with that as a council member?
Listen, I'm one of those people who live in one of those neighborhoods that's not perfect. You know, one of our biggest crimes right now is car burglaries, which is happening across St. Pete. You know, it's not just specific to any one area, which folks try to say, oh, that's a South Side problem. No, it's citywide.
Countywide, as a matter of fact.
Exactly, it's countywide. It's a quality of life issue that needs addressing, public safety. And that's going to be a cornerstone of my platform. And the approach that I bring is that village mentality, you know, looking out for our neighbors, our brothers and sisters, our children, which is what I was brought up on, is, you know, we look out for each other's kids, making sure that they ain't knucklehead, ain't getting in no trouble they're not supposed to be doing. So I think we should go back to that mentality and use the Crime Watch approach, and I'm happy with the work that I've done with our Crime Watch division within Lakewood Terrace, because what we've done is we've partnered with every neighbor, we've gone to the parents, and we've said, listen, this A, B, and C is the problem child. Now how are we going to work with you as the parent, as the guardian, to make sure that we give them something productive to do? That means working with PAL, you know, working with extracurricular groups, you know, that actually have our children's best interests at heart. That alleviates a lot of the crimes that we'll
Right.
face in our community by giving our kids something productive to do,
Right.
rather than just sitting around finding trouble to get into.
Right.
So my thing is make sure that we work with our local police department because they should be our friends and not our enemies. They should be the ones that we work with to make sure that our neighborhood is protected, that it's secure.
Right.
Because the community that you're policing, you should have partnerships with them
Right.
too. So it starts with working with neighborhood leaders like yourself, Brother John, Brother Jabbar, making sure that, you know, we're invested in the neighborhood that we're here to serve.
Right. Excellent. Excellent. And then another one of the challenges that we see in our community is the way we approach politics. As you said, you know, the way we view public service, because we've been on the losing end of a lot of that.
Yeah.
And so people,
Especially recently, 2016. If you look at that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just
Oh,
saying,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But don't sleep on it. See, and I'm sorry to cut
No,
you
that's
off,
good.
Brother John, but you know, a lot of folks forget, you know, 2017, you know, municipalities across the state, across the country are going to be having elections.
Right.
We can't afford to wait until 2018 to try to start, you know, building up our country, you know, building that momentum to
Right.
get ready for 2020.
Yeah.
No, the time is now. Let's reorganize.
Right.
Let's rebuild. Let's strategize right now so that by 2017, the latter end, we're ready for those elections. And
Right.
then come 2018, we're just going to blow them out the
That's
water.
right. We got to.
you know?
We can't lay down and roll over.
don't
And-
sleep.
And one of the things that has really been a blessing for us out of this election is, I mean, you got more people. We used to have to try and find people,
Yes.
but now people are seeking us out, saying, "Hey, man, we got to do something. What can we do?"
I know.
You know,
I know.
really, and that's one segment of the population. But then there's another segment of the population who's totally disengaged. And what would be your plan or some of the ideas that you would have on increasing civic engagement to show people that these elections, this type of stuff, actually matters?
Another platform issue that I want to raise awareness of in my first term is making sure that we increase a renewed emphasis on youth and constituent services. Making sure that, like I said, our city has the tools and the resources necessary to thrive, survive, and prosper. Making sure that residents feel like the city's pro, you know, not anti.
Right.
And so it's important that, like I said, we strategize and we work with our local neighborhood associations. We have over 150 of them across the city.
Right.
And like I said, it goes back to that village mentality, recognizing that although one neighborhood may be north and the other neighborhood may be south, they share the same issues.
Right.
They both want to make sure that our sewers are fixed. They want to make sure that, you know, our children have a quality early childhood education and that we have quality affordable housing for everyone.
Right.
And so that's what it goes back to, is making sure that we're giving our residents an opportunity to buy and own property right here in St. Pete, because sometimes you have 2-3 generations of family,
Right.
Brother John, that live and never have an opportunity to own a house
Right.
in St. Pete.
That's right.
That's a problem because the city has ample opportunities for folks to become homeowners, and there's down payment and closing cost assistance programs, but it comes back to communication.
Right.
Making sure that we communicate every possible benefit that a person can have by being a resident in St. Pete. Getting it out there. If it means social media, Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, whatever
Reaching
it is.
people where they
reaching
are.
folks,
Right.
exactly. Going to the unreached, finding out who we haven't been touching, and then getting out there and communicating with.
Right, right. All right, excellent points. And what we
That's
do
what we got to touch on. I'm just saying, touch and agree. Touch and agree.
Touch and agree.
That's it.
So what we'll do is we're going to take a real quick break, and then we'll come back with more from the Lakeside Chat. Welcome back to the Lakeside Chat. I'm your host, Brother John Muhammad, here with candidate for District 6, Brother Corey Givens Jr. And we talked about his platform, some of his platform, and some of the things that he would do as it relates to economic development and public safety. We want to continue the conversation. Thinking about, fast forwarding to the election, dealing with, city council and being elected on council, a lot of things require 4 other votes to get done. So how do you see yourself being as a bridge builder and being able to get consensus and get the support of other members of the council? How do you plan on really operating in that space?
You said 2 words, Brother John, a bridge builder. That's what you need, a bridge builder, not a bridge destroyer. A bridge builder, not a bridge destroyer.
Right.
Somebody who's gonna work to build an allegiance with folks. We got a lot of rivers we got to cross.
Right.
So we're going to need all our brothers and sisters, regardless of what they look like, what they might believe, who they might worship. We're going to need everybody to unite together to focus on the task at hand, which is making sure that our city is safer and stronger for the generations to come.
Right.
So for me, it's going to be building that alliance and that friendship, those relationships that I already have with current council members,
Right.
and then making sure that it's nurtured so that we can focus on what's best for not just District 6, but every district across this city.
Right.
There's 8 districts, over 30,000 people in each of them. We got to make sure that we touch each and every one of them, and I think it's going to take a personal story. Folks they're tired of being everything politicized.
Right.
They're tired of everything being polarized. They want their cookie cut neat.
Yeah.
You know, they
Yeah.
want everything straightforward. And so that's what we want to do, is give folks straightforward answers, straightforward solutions, but unite together to build a bridge over what divides us.
Right. And so I know right now are you still serving on the Community Advisory Council for the CRA? How's that work going? And what would you say, you know, some of the biggest opportunities as well as challenges in that work?
Well, you know, I came on board in October of last year, and that was after a trivial period, I think, with the CRA. You know, I think a lot of business benefited from it the first cycle, the last cycle, whenever those grants were awarded. But I think that the core group of us that serve on that advisory council have worked with city administration staff and city council members who have been present in those meetings to make sure that we redesign the grant process to make it fair, so that everyone has an opportunity.
Right.
And one of the things that we're going to be doing differently this term, Brother John, is making sure that we put the word out there. Like I said, communicating better, making sure that, you know, those who will or are thinking about at least applying for one of those grants are educated on the process so that they have the know-how. That way, nobody can complain and say, "Oh, I didn't know."
Right.
You know, no shoulda, coulda, wouldas.
Right.
When we give it to you, at that point, it's up to you to take the tools and run with it.
Right. And then also you're president of Lakewood Terrace?
Lakewood Terrace.
Lakewood Terrace Neighborhood Association. What would you say has been your proudest accomplishment over at Lakewood?
Reviving the neighborhood association. It was dead. It was dead for a while.
Back up.
Yeah, it was a graveyard over there, you know. But I think, you know, one of the things I did was I went straight to Carl and I said, you know, Councilman Nurse, I live in a neighborhood where I don't see a lot of focus on the youth that live here, and we got a lot of kids here. You know, at that point, I was a paraprofessional at Lakewood Elementary School.
Okay.
So a lot of those kids who were in my classroom or at my school were living in that neighborhood, and I saw them just running around the streets, you know, just up to no good, barefoot, you know, no shirts on, and
Like we used to be.
like I still do sometimes. Sometimes I'm guilty, but you know, they were just up to no good.
Right.
And you know, I felt like as a neighborhood, we should make sure that there was more things for our kids to be doing. So, you know, by working with Powell and Officer Lopez and the rest of the folks with the Police Athletic League, we made sure that we brought, you know, programs and activities for our kids who live in our neighborhood to get involved in.
Right.
And one of the things that I'm most proudest of is, you know, by using the Mayor's Mini Grant, we had a cycle of activities that took place over the year from 2015 and 2016, and then we have one actually April 15th at Lakewood Terrace Neighborhood Park at 1 o'clock. We're going to be having our Easter egg hunt. So anybody out there who's listening, if you can, come on out. But, you know, just offering more programs for families to get engaged and to find out who's living next door to who, so that we know who our neighbors are and we can look out for each other.
Right. And then with just, you know, going into, you know, city council and this district, what would you say would be the biggest challenge that you see that's facing District 6 and the city?
Well, District 6 is a very unique district. You have some of the city's poorest neighborhoods and then some of the city's most affluent neighborhoods, like downtown. And it's going to be a matter of, like I said, uniting those neighborhoods, you know. And I think, you know, there's more that unites us than what divides us. And it's going to take having a representative that can speak to each issue in each one of those neighborhoods, and therefore bringing a bridge over that divide. And it's going to take me, like I said, going back to the neighborhood level, because I've realized working as the president of my neighborhood association, there's strength in numbers. And when you go block by block, Brother John, and neighborhood by neighborhood, you will be surprised the amount of people that will take hear to what you're saying, and as a result want to get involved. And so it's a matter of, like I said, going to the people, giving the people a message that resonates with them, and then giving them a task to do, letting them know when that task is gonna be due, because like I said, we don't have forever, you know, and I'm only gonna be given 4 years in my first term when I'm elected, not if, but when I'm elected. I'm only gonna have 4 years to get done what I need to get done, and then if I'm blessed to see a second term, then that gives me another 4 years, but that means 8 years to turn our city around and to make make sure that we get back on a path forward. Because one thing that I've learned is that if we're not conscientious, if we're too quick to take our foot off of that brake, history can repeat itself.
Right.
And we can't afford to let that happen.
Right.
Because we've seen what happens when that does.
Absolutely. And then being a neighborhood, rooted in neighborhoods, and as a neighborhood association president myself, what are some of the things that you would be able to propose to help strengthen the neighborhoods and increase the capacity of the neighborhoods to do some of the things that you talked about?
I think definitely more jobs. We need more local jobs. Jobs, and then we need workforce development. Because you can bring all the jobs in the world to a community, but if you aren't partnering with those businesses, offering apprenticeships with those businesses, opportunities for those folks to get internships and develop their trade or their skill, then you're setting them up to fail.
Right.
So I would love to see more businesses come into areas south of Central and east of 34th Street, because I'm finding Jabal and Raymond James and all of these other businesses are either downtown or North St. Pete.
Right.
But making sure that we're working with PSTA and the county to build partnerships so that we can offer transit to these folks to get to the jobs that might not necessarily be in their neighborhood, because I think when we offer folks opportunities, they're more prone to take it.
Right.
And so that's why I said, you can lead a camel to water, but you can't make them drink it.
Right.
I can give you everything you need, but it's up to you to grab it and run with it.
Right. Excellent. Great point. I think that's a good place for us to stop. We're going to take a real quick break, and then we'll come back with more with Corey Givens Jr. and the Lakeside Chat. Welcome back to the Lakeside Chat. I'm your host, Brother John Muhammad, here with candidate for City Council District 6, Brother Corey Givens Jr. And we covered a lot of ground, man.
Yes, we have.
I appreciate you and for coming by and really talking to us about your platform. And one of the things that happens here with the chat is during the break, we have these sidebar, off the cuff conversations. And
That's where the best discussions take place.
Isn't that something?
Off the record.
It's off the record. so back on the record, one of the things I like to talk about is kind of picking up on that, the CAC and the work with the CRA Advisory Council, because one of the things that we got back as criticisms was that some of these programs are not accessible to everyday people, being that it was like matching funds or things like that. So what are your thoughts on that, and what would be some things that you would propose to maybe address it and make not only the process open enough where people know about it, but to make it where everyday people can actually access it if they don't have capital?
Right. Well, I'm going to give you 2 points to that, Brother John, about how we can improve the CRA process. And my first point was opening that window, extending the window for the application period, so that more folks have an opportunity to apply, more folks have an opportunity to come out there and to find out what it's all about, what is a CRA, what is a grant, People have an opportunity to ask questions to become well informed. And we know that when we educate folks, then they're more prone to do the right thing.
Right.
So giving them more of an opportunity, even if we as a city have to extend city hours to make sure that we can accommodate those local business owners.
Right, because they're working
a 9 to 5 just like the folks down at City Hall.
Right.
So, if we got to bring those resources into the community so that we can utilize them, then that's what we need to do.
Right.
Let's mobilize city government. Let's not stand still. Let's stay woke. Let's be actively involved and engaged. And then my second principal point was to make sure, and this was something that I've said in CAC meetings down at City Hall, is when it comes to matching funds, you're trying to get money.
Right.
So if you're trying to get money, why should you have to put up money?
Right.
And that's difficult for a lot of businesses, especially these mom and pop businesses that have only been around for 6 months to a year.
Right.
They haven't brought in any capital yet, and they're starting up. And we know anytime you're running business, there's startup costs associated with that. So to have to put up money and match funds for funds, that disenfranchises that business owner. So what I've suggested is joint applications for those business owners that share the same property or are utilizing the same facility.
Right.
If they're going to be taking that money to build up their building, the structure itself, the physical structure, let's make sure that, they have an opportunity to apply jointly and match funds together rather than singular.
Right. And then education, I hear that come up a lot too, and particularly with, business owners. And we talk, just different types of literacy. So you got financial literacy, political literacy, but then education as a whole. And one of the things that they talk about, when we talk about the what they call these fabulous five, or the failure factors, as the Times called them. People like to dismiss what can be done with education because they say that's a county thing, not necessarily a city issue. How would you respond to that?
I completely agree. I think we should look at it as a city issue, a county issue, a state issue, a national issue. Because anytime you're talking about our children we're talking about our future here.
Right.
You know, you and I, Brother John, we'll be around for a little while longer, but we got to think about our children and our grandchildren. You know,
Right.
what will they say? Did they say we were actively engaged in 2017, or we slept and we let things just go by?
Right.
You know, I want to be someone who's engaged in turning things around in my school. So I don't want to look at it as a failure factory. I want to look over it as a turnaround school.
Right.
A school that just needs a little TLC. And when we give them that TLC, let's make sure that we don't disregard the families in the process.
Right.
You know, we have to focus on our student. We got to focus on the teachers, but let's not forget about the families.
How would you do that from the council?
And this is where council comes in, is partnering with our school board, and that's why I'm happy to have support from members of our school board, including Renee Flowers, and she represents District 7, which is where all 5 of those schools are.
Right.
And that takes making sure that those families have the resources that they need. That means making sure that we give them that daycare that they need, because a lot of folks, you know, are working full-time jobs, sometimes 40 to 50 hours a week, and they can't be there to, you know, help their child with their homework. So
Right.
if we have to extend our recreation center hours, you know, I love what happens over here with Dale Fix Sanders at the YMCA. Those are programs that we need to see throughout our city. You know,
Right.
programs that have certified teachers that we as city and county officials can pay for to come and stay after school to teach our babies so that they can get the total wraparound care that they need. You know, our kids don't thrive off of just 8 hours
Right.
in a classroom. We have to make sure that we give them extracurriculars to keep their mind free and healthy, and then at the same token making sure that we're giving them those tutors and those mentors that they need to keep them structured and aligned educationally.
Excellent. And so what we'll do is, at this point, is there like anything that you want to say to the audience, or, you know, to our viewers at home as to why they should vote for you?
Well, you know, I appreciate you again, Brother John, Brother Jabbar, and everyone else for having me today on Lakeside Chat. I've been wanting to be on here. I feel like I'm a celebrity now, so watch out, Will Smith. But this is something that I've wanted, because Lakeside Chat and programs like Lakeside Chat, this is what our city needs. We need programs that are going to go to the folks who ain't sitting there watching Bay News 9 every day, who might
Right.
not necessarily read the Tampa Bay Times or the Weekly Challenger. Folks who are engaged, but just on a different level.
Right.
And those are the folks that we need to be touching. So what I would like to say to those voters who are watching Lakeside Chat today is, what can Corey Givens do for you? I have a website, www.corygivens.com. And there, voters can reach me directly, and they can ask me any questions that they have about what they think is wrong with our city, what they think is right with our city, what we can do to improve things for the residents who live in our city. I feel like the city council member that we elect to District 6 should be a bridge builder, not a bridge destroyer. It should be someone who's going to be quick to listen and not speak. Someone who wants to find out how they can change the community that they've called home all their life. So I want to focus on quality of life issues in my first term, making sure that every resident has an opportunity at quality education and a quality affordable housing. I want to make sure that we focus on mass transit across the region, and not just here in St. Pete, but making sure that we connect Tampa Bay so that folks can expand their workforce options. I want to make sure that we focus on sustainability and take things a step further when it goes to going green. And I'm proud to be the first African American on the executive committee for the Sierra Club, where I've honed my efforts in making sure that I conserve my environmental footprint and not enlarge it. I want to make sure, lastly, that we place renewed emphasis on youth and constituent services, making sure that our children have mentors, because that's what helped me, is having a good mentor, multiple mentors who pushed Corey a little bit further and told him to stay on the right track, because everything would work out in the long run. That's what our children need. They need hope. They need optimism. They need to know that everything is going to be all right, and we can give them that shoulder to lean on as a city. I want to make sure that voters feel like they can trust me. They can listen. I can listen to them, and I'm going to be held accountable for every vote that I make on that city council. So on August 29th or before, if you vote by mail, I want you to thank Corey Givens. Thank Corey Givens, because Corey Givens is going to think about you. And please, again, visit me online at www.corygivens.com to find out more about who I am and what I stand for.
Thank you. Thank you for coming, Brother Corey.
Thank you.
I always appreciate it.
Always a blessing.
Yes, sir. Thank you for tuning in. It's been a wonderful episode of the Lakeside Chat. Please share the page, facebook.com/Lakeside Chat. And as always, we like to encourage you to continue to believe and do good. Peace.